hire the right people, be extremely diligent about it, focus on a large market because this ultimately determines your success, and think about a large global problem which everyone has. Be very efficient and be very frugal. We're very focused on our strategy. We don't want to do a little bit of everything. We have a clear long-term strategy which we are going to pursue, and I think it's going to lead us to success. And this will be to make investing in saving very popular among the crowd, which will help us to have interest from big, stable companies to raise finance. And over time, we're going to be able to bring the risk on the platform significantly down, which obviously will further improve its appearance to investors.
So how do you find your customers? How do you penetrate new markets?
It's a mix of a little bit of everything. We have a referral program. We work a lot through affiliates as well. We partner with different financial bloggers and influencers across Europe. Bulgaria is quite suitable to start a business and to develop a business, obviously, because we have very low tax base.
Svetlin Sabev is a Bulgarian fintech entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Afranga, a regulated P2P lending marketplace that connects investors with business loans. Under his leadership, Afranga aims to make investing more accessible and transparent. With experience across the digital lending ecosystem, Sabev has been involved in multiple fintech ventures and focuses on building scalable financial platforms that enable people to grow their wealth through smarter, technology-driven investment solutions.
And if you're just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive Podcast on your YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.
And if you're starting just now with AI and everything, would you start in fintech, and how would you start?
I don't think I will start in fintech ever again because it's very difficult. Don't go into regulated space. AI is very. When like ChatGPT made advances, I was obsessed with it like for 4 months. I didn't sleep because I was doing all things with it after work, even though I had like a newly born baby. So it's something like, it's an insane innovation, in my opinion, and you can apply it in so many spaces. I would probably go against the common conception. I would apply it to call centers in customer service. I think it can absolutely replace every customer support and customer service, every call center, every chat with a human being, because it's just so good at it. And if you connect it to your systems, it has like instant information about everything. It can work 24/7. You can run customer support in 20 different languages in 20 countries from your servers, which are not even your servers, they are somewhere in the cloud. So that's what I would do.
And if you haven't met your co-founder in school, how would you approach finding the right partner?
I would definitely look for a person with whom I have a good rapport, good connection, which I built over time. I would have seen him. I want to have a history with this person and not someone that I've met during an interview or I was introduced to. I would like to see him in different social situations, in different moments in life, how he reacts during good times, tough times, family challenges, how he treats his friends. This is all very important because it translates all across the company.
Yeah. If you had a magic wand, what skill of yours would you transform?
I would make myself more patient. As a founder, I want everything to happen like today. I'm working on that. I think I improved it on over time, but I definitely still have a long way to go.
What are the key advices you would give to any founder?
To new founders, maybe I would say that quite important for your success is just to share what you're doing with absolutely everyone. Don't keep any secrets. Don't be secretive about it. I don't think you're doing anything genius. You're definitely not the smartest person in the world. A lot of people have figured out what you're doing in different markets. But I've discovered that when you share your ideas and passions and visions and even strategy and tactics to other people, you either tend to get acquainted with people who can help you out and they know someone that can be beneficial to you, or they give you really good advice and they challenge you. So I've noticed that quite a lot of people who are building something, they think that it's brilliant and you shouldn't share it with anyone. Trust me, someone else is doing it the same. So the more people you know around you about what you do and how you think, the better chance you have at success, I think.
Today we are here with Svetlin Sabev, who is a fintech founder from Bulgaria. But let me ask you first to introduce yourself better. I'm pretty sure you'll tell us curious things.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm the founder of Afranga, which is the first licensed crowdfunding lending platform in Bulgaria. We transitioned actually from the peer-to-peer model, and we started the platform, I think, 5 years ago already. And last year we switched to the licensed regulated model. And I'm also the founder of several other lending companies in the fintech space. So I have some experience in that space.
Could you please elaborate a bit more? What is Afranga's platform? How does it work?
Right. So Afranga helps the average investor to save money and build passive income by allowing them to lend their money directly to growing companies in Europe. And the platform basically facilitates the whole process. So this was the end goal in mind, which we had. And it started out of necessity because as a founder of a lending company, we were always needing cash to grow. And we started partnering with lots of peer-to-peer lending platforms in Europe long time ago, 8 or 9 years ago, which is ages in the tech world. They were still like newly founded. They were discovering the business model and all of that. And we started working with them quite well. It worked for us. It brought the required capital to grow. I like the peer-to-peer lending model because I think like sharing is the future, and it combined well with tech. And so after COVID, basically, we established our own platform and vertically integrated to some extent, although it operates as a separate legal entity. And we were waiting in anticipation for the regulation to come because it was sort of like a little bit the Wild West, because the space was not and still isn't regulated exactly, the peer-to-peer lending model. So you operate sort of like in a legal vacuum. And we didn't see that as a sustainable business model. And so we decided to switch to the licensed business model and scale the company after that.
And what was the journey in launching a company in 2020?
It was quite challenging because we had to be very fast because sources of funding were drying up. Basically, COVID brought liquidity squeezes to some platforms. Others went into financial difficulties for one reason or another. And so we've always viewed, we had this view that we need to have several sources of funding just from strategic perspective in order not to be fully dependent on one source. And obviously the platforms were ending up in trouble. And we realized that we have to create our own platform in order to have more control and better access to investors, be more transparent about it, because a lot of investors were frustrated that they don't have they don't receive good information from the platforms and in a timely manner. They're not transparent. and they don't know what's going on with their investments, basically. And so we realized that there is actually room for improvement. And we started building up the platform. We built the MVP pretty quickly. I think in 3 or 4 months, we launched with some basic features, and we started building up from there on. So it was interesting. The start was, I think, good, and it helped that we had built a very good reputation as a trustworthy company over time, because we always repaid the funds on time. We were transparent. We disclosed quite a lot of data. We have good reporting, audited financials. So all of that helps in building trust. And people were used to our company. They had invested with it like for 4 or 5 years, just through like other means and other platforms. And so the word quickly spread out across the community, and we built a decent investor base, which served us well at the time. And after that, we kept adding new features and functionalities which were required by investors, which are quite demanding. But it's good because they're open to suggestions, and they do suggest actually new ideas all the time. So it's good to use your community and basically develop what they need for them. It helps a lot.
What is the most common investor's profile on your platform?
Typically, it's what would I say? It's professional from either IT or financial sector, or a business owner. Middle-aged with good savings and obviously quite high financial literacy. Those are currently the type of people who invest primarily on the platform. And over time, I would like to build features and functionalities which are oriented towards more the average, if there is anything such thing as the average retail investor, but sort of to serve like the broader market and not have to make so much detailed analysis and know the companies in which you invest in. So sort of to democratize investing, basically.
Then I would like to focus a bit more on your journey as a founder. And as you're based in Bulgaria and decided to build your company here, what were the challenges that you first faced, and why you decide to stay in Bulgaria, not go to the UK, for example?
Right. Well, especially if we have Afranga in mind, we had such thoughts to whether to stay in Bulgaria or build a company abroad, primarily due to regulation and access to government institutions. It's a difficult choice, which we still, I think, like you never decided terminally. You always reconsider it after a while as you grow and scale and your needs change. Bulgaria is quite suitable to start a business and to develop a business, obviously, because we have very low tax base. The labor, I wouldn't say it's cheap, because in net terms for, with professionals, it's close to Western Europe. But the total cost for labor is still cheaper due to the social security, tax income, etc. And all the other costs that are added on top, basically, on your net salary. So this is definitely attractive. Office space obviously is cheaper than in Western Europe and the CE market. So from cost perspective, that's definitely an advantage. And it's definitely something which adds up over time, because it allows you to be more efficient than your competitors. And obviously you can do more with each euro which you spend. So first, it requires less invested capital, makes your life easier, and second of all, you're more efficient, so you can direct that money into like marketing or something else, which helps the business grow. So this is definitely important. The challenge was that obviously regulators are not so open-minded when it comes to innovation. The regulators are difficult all across Europe. This is what I've realized. So we don't operate like we have this bubble in our head that everything is better in Western Europe. That's certainly not true, but I think ours are a little bit more by the book. And they don't have so much flexibility, and they don't really understand that when you're building, like when you're 5 people building something out of scratch, which is completely novel and there's no regulation for it or legal framework or anything, they can be a little bit more flexible and allow you to break things and take some risks.
Yeah. And you mentioned the cost optimization, but Bulgaria recently, in 2026, joined the Eurozone, which is both good, but of course the costs are rising. We are talking about single European market. So maybe at some point the cost will be similar to Western Europe. How would that affect the companies, in your opinion, the companies you see, Bulgarian companies specifically?
Well, it will make them less competitive, of course. It will take part of your competitive advantage, which is significant. So obviously companies will need to look for productivity and strategic advantages elsewhere. Either build a more attractive product, invest in intellectual properties, develop some technology which is not present elsewhere, use patents and all sort of stuff. Use trade secrets, basically, build the knowledge. So we transition from working in workers' economy to a knowledge economy, which is not a bad thing, I think.
You founded a couple of companies in the fintech sector. When did you found your first company?
If we have to be fully exact, my first company, which I built with my partners, I didn't exactly found it myself because I wasn't present during the founding stage. I joined a few years later. But that happened basically in 2018. This is when I joined our first fintech company, which is an online lender. And after that, we just kept on going. Founding a car leasing company, another online fintech company, Afranga, and some other businesses as well on the side. So they were pretty busy the last 10 years.
And is there some challenge that you wish you knew that would be a big challenge?
There are a lot of costly mistakes, which I wish I knew. Probably the first lesson was just in the beginning where we acquired part of the office retail network of a competitor. And the first lesson was never to trust anyone by the word in business. Always verify everything through 2 or 3 other sources. So that was it wasn't an expensive lesson because we made money, but it was very challenging because it put us in a disadvantage and something I wish didn't happen.
But how do you manage to leverage all those companies? You're still in charge of those companies.
Right. We have streamlined a lot of the processes. We have built a pretty good tech. Obviously, we have set up all the reporting in place. And over time with my partner, we spent quite a lot of time building actually a good management team so it can take care of day-to-day tasks and run the operations basically. So I'm the head of a few companies, but I'm not directly involved in their management like on a day-to-day basis. And I usually go by with weekly or monthly reporting.
Okay, great. So what's next for Afranga?
Well, we want to bring a large number of borrowing companies and loan originators from across Europe. Some of the names the investors in the space already know, and they're quite popular. We also want to build additional features like the secondary market, how to invest, which is a pretty desirable product by the investors. And of course, the next step is to scale the platform and make it one of the leaders on the European market. Where right now we're working on that quite extensively. Last year, we were focused more on building the right team, finding the right people, and now we have the strategy in place, and it's a matter of executing every other month and just scaling it.
And why would you say you're better than your competitors?
Well, It's tough to say because I don't know their inner brain, so I don't know how they're working internally. I think we're very focused on our strategy. We don't want to do a little bit of everything. We have a clear long-term strategy which we are going to pursue, and I think it's going to lead us to success. And this will be to make it to make investing and saving very popular among the crowd, which will help us to have interest from big, stable companies to raise finance. And over time, we're going to be able to bring the risk on the platform significantly down, which obviously will further improve its appearance to investors. And we're going to be relentless in doing that and remove every obstacle basically in front of investor. We're going to make it as simple as possible to save your funds. And we're going to make sure that you never ever lose a single cent of the platform, which I don't think is something that many founders in this space have in mind.
Is raising venture capital part of your plans to scale?
If necessary, yes. So far, the company is bootstrapped. Obviously, we rely on our sort of related companies. For now, I don't see the need, but it's possible.
You mentioned a couple of times your partners. Apparently, they're quite important. Could you please tell us how did you meet them? Because it's quite important. How do you meet your co-founder? How do you make this synergy?
Yeah, that's very important. So definitely, you can't do successful business with anyone. I think you need to be very alike. You need to have complementary skills, but still, you need to have common values and goals in life. I met my partner in high school. Actually, we were best friends. And I went on with my education abroad, and he entered the financial sector here in Bulgaria. And after a few years, we sort of met each other, and he said, why not join the company and we can build something interesting together? And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try it.
So that's a true friendship, working together and still being friends.
Yep.
That's great.
Nothing says good friendship like sharing money together and losing money together.
Are you focused 100% now on Afranga, or are you planning to found more companies?
I'm focused probably 70% on Afranga. We are founding more companies. We need to stop that. We joke about this internally all the time. Our largest, more recent project is the car lending business, where we combined, we re-engineered basically the entire car leasing business from scratch and removed everything that's unnecessary. And now we offer car leasing within the same day, which most people think is too long, but actually car leasing is very physical business. So usually it takes you anywhere from 5 days up to 2 weeks from the moment you apply for a car to actually receive it physically. And we didn't like that. And obviously the customers don't like it because they want the car to have it right now and be in their hands and be able to drive away with it. There's a very big emotional attachment between the person and his car. And so we re-engineered the process to be able to complete this entire thing in 1 day, which is a big hit. And so my time is focused on that company a little bit. But in the same time, we're pretty, I would say, experienced entrepreneurs. So we knew that we couldn't do this alone. And we spent, again, the last year building the management team. And right now, even we're looking for a suitable CEO who can take over the company. And I will focus on building Afranga, and my partner will focus on expanding the car lending business.
And I would like to zoom out a bit and talk about the ecosystem in Bulgaria. You recently joined the Bulgarian Fintech Association. What are the current trends in the Bulgarian Fintech ecosystem?
Well, I think there are many. So it's very good that over time, investment capacity was built through different VC funds, and they were very active since like probably, I don't know, the last 15 years maybe. So that helps obviously to fund starting companies. There are also other institutional investors which are present. Bulgaria is not an unknown space for investors, which is also important to have like growth capital after the startup stage, obviously. We have a pretty sharing community. So some of the founders who have built companies from scratch and they've marketed on the world market and they expanded even to the US. They're here in Bulgaria and they're sharing knowledge. They're talking to startup founders about their issues, their hurdles, how they survived, how they were close to going bankrupt. So this is quite an important knowledge that's accumulated within the system and being shared right now. Obviously, we have the talent. We have pretty smart people here. Unfortunately, we're fighting for them with the big companies abroad who employ them remotely. But they're pretty talented people who are operate at the world-class level in pretty much every respect, like UX, UI, tech, web design, marketing. So that's pretty important. And of course, the tax base and the life. I think all of those work together pretty well.
Yeah, you mentioned the funds, but we have some growth capital, but we still lag behind like having late stage funding capital. I suppose there are a lot of other threats we are not aware with. Like, what are companies facing besides the funding?
Yeah, of course, this is always this is currently a challenge. So there lacks big institutional capital in Bulgaria, and most of the companies who need large rounds usually look for it abroad. That's one of the challenges for sure. I think it's a pity that commercial banks are not open to investments in developing companies. Our banks are more on the conservative side, which I think should be changed, because as we see the the deposits base keeps on growing year after year, and the banks are looking for opportunities to do something with this capital, but it just stays tied up and it's not utilized. Other challenges, I think, I would say not just in Bulgaria, but in Europe as a whole, is one challenge is over-regulation, I believe. I'm definitely pro-regulation and clear, playing rules, but it shouldn't be overburdening, and the legislators need to keep it in their head that when you're doing a legislation, you're not just doing it for a company with 50,000 employees, but it can affect the company with 5 employees. Like I have this issue with Afranga right now because we follow the crowdfunding regulation, but it creates some unnecessary reporting for me, which I don't really see what's the point. And it's not useful to anyone, but the regulators decided to have it that way. But obviously this takes like technical development time for me, because my IT guys, they need to implement a solution. I have someone who is monitoring that on an ongoing basis, and that takes resource away from the company, and then puts it into something which isn't producing anything for the company, basically. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a challenge, and I see that it's getting a little bit worse and worse year over year.
And what about the rest of the Central and Eastern European fintech companies and other countries? Where does Bulgaria stand?
Well, it's difficult to say. It depends on who you ask. I think we're in a leading position in terms of talent and in terms of the ecosystem and the financial resources. Certainly, the Baltics are ahead of us. This is no secret to anyone that Estonia, that's pretty digital country. Basically, you can do everything electronically. it also has the preconditions for attracting other companies to set up shop there. So that's pretty important. Poland, on the other hand, has a pretty big advantage against everyone in the CE region because they have a huge market, and the domestic market is always extremely important in the first phase when you're still starting up. Unless, of course, you're building a solution for a global market from scratch and from the very beginning. So that gives a pretty good firepower to the starting companies there. Their government obviously thinks about innovation because they have this virtual sandbox environment, and I think they have like a channel to communicate with the government in an easier and more straightforward way regarding innovations, something like that. So I think each country is obviously handling it. They have their own strategy and strengths and weaknesses. I don't think there is a clear winner, but I think we're doing pretty well and we can do even better.
Do you believe in, like nowadays we talk about a lot stronger Europe in every vertical, in everything, in defense, in economy. What's your take on the UAE, for example?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I'm always pro for larger, more homogeneous markets. This is proven over time that it's a winning strategy. So I'm definitely about more convergence and breaking down the barriers. And the barriers, they're especially evident in the fintech space. Because in, for example, like lending or payments, the markets are pretty, and insurance, insurtech as well. The markets are pretty fragmented from country to country. If you take insurance, like in each of the 27 markets, you have some local specifics regarding the legislation. You have different insurance companies. You have different IT infrastructure. So if you want to enter into insurtech, it's pretty difficult to encompass like the entire European Union. It's the same in lending because you have different credit bureaus or different government registries. So you need to adjust your tech and infrastructure in order to access it, to adjust your reporting, to adjust your systems in order to get this data from the government agencies. So, of course, differences, they always are a challenge towards innovation and scale. And that's why we have such huge companies like in China or the US, because they have like one large homogeneous market. And we do have a lot of population in Europe, but it's still not a single market, unfortunately.
And realistically, how much time would you take to make it single market if we're optimists and we're going towards that?
I don't think I have experience. You should ask the politicians. As a business owner,
in 4 years.
As an entrepreneur, I would say probably in 4 years, but the reality is probably going to be 40 years. Things always move very slowly on that scale. And obviously there are good sides to that because you affect a large number of people and lives and economies. So you can't just make decisions without detailed analysis. Obviously it's more complicated because there are always different types of forces fighting against each other. Everything that happens usually on a government and a country level takes a lot of time. So,
yeah. As we're approaching the end of our conversation, is there something that I haven't asked you, but you want to share with our listeners and viewers?
Maybe one thing as a founder that I learned, I would like to share with other people is that, well, I learned it, maybe everyone else knows it. But as a founder, I learned that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you're transparent about it to your community and obviously remedy it pretty quickly. So with Afranga, we've made, it was especially explicit with Afranga because obviously we deal with other people's money. So first of all, you're never allowed to make a mistake or to lose it. And second of all, people are pretty cautious about what's going on, and they tend to judge you very harshly because that's their life savings obviously their future. But I realized that when we've made mistakes from time to time, which affect a larger number of people, they take it quite well if you acknowledge it, if you are transparent about it, and if you simply fix it. As long as it's not some absolute stupidity, which is. So this is something that was new to me.
Thank you for joining the Recursive Podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
And if you're just as passionate about innovation as we are, hit subscribe for the Recursive Podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We're everywhere.